Hello again, welcome back, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch Hello Good Game. Today we'll be continuing on through our Strixhaven Theory Crafting Conquest. We've got Witherbloom Creature Overload. Our opponents will not be able to keep up with this deck. The amount of pressure that you can apply consistently is, I don't want to say game breaking before I've tested it against any other decks, but things are looking up for Witherbloom, that's for sure. Of course, if you guys find any value within today's video, go ahead, leave a thumbs up right now to help support the channel. And now let's get into it while you do that. Well, that's all right. I'll wait for you to like the video. It only takes a second. Oh, thanks, your dog. Anyways, Witherbloom Creature Overload, 469 buckaronis. Who could afford something like this, right? Absolutely insane. Check it out. You can buy paper cards if you're a Bitcoin billionaire within our TCG link, right? You can find that. It's linked to our Aether Hub account. Go there, click into it, and, buy a bunch of these decks. I think I only get a couple percentage, so it's not that cool, but nonetheless, so damn expensive. Anyways, if you want in on some freebies, because you're not a Bitcoin billionaire, check out our Linktree link. We've got competitions, giveaways, lots of stuff going on that you can get in on. Of course, you can support there as well if you want. I'm not going to stop you from that. But with all, that jazz out of the way, let's take a look at this deck and find out why it costs so much, because, that's going to be a mystery in and of itself. It surely isn't the Tangled Florahedron, LOL. This is a 2 CMC 1/1 that taps to add a green to our mana pool. Great. It also has the land that will come in tapped on the opposing side, as it is an MDFC, or Moldul-faced card. 4 copies of Willow Haven, an enchantment, enchant land, and whenever enchanted land taps for mana, add an additional green to our pool. We can pay 5, sacrifice the Haven to create a 2/2 wolf at sorcery speed. 2 copies of Kogla's Blood Mage. Now this is a bomb, and we'll probably end up running 4 copies of it eventually. When it enters the battlefield, choose one. Create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, whenever this creature dies, you gain 1 life, or you draw a card and lose 1 life, or exile target player's graveyard. There's so much going on. I love it. We have 4 copies of Ecological Appreciation. Now this is one of the heaters that ties the deck together. For 3 mana plus X at sorcery speed, search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names that each have mana value X or less. Reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest into the battlefield. Exile Ecological Appreciation. So you can't replay it, obviously, because it's too good. But we're going to be doing some shenanigans with this, and we're going to wrap back to it once I've talked about the rest of the cards. 4 copy of Kazandu Mammoth, another MDFC land, much like the Florahedron. However, this doesn't produce mana if you choose the Mammoth. A 3/3 with landfall. Whenever a land enters play, the Mammoth gets +2/+2. Love it. 4 copies of Love-Struck Beast for 3 mana. A 5/5 that can only attack if we control another creature with 1/1. It has Heart's Desire at sorcery speed for 1 mana as the adventure to create a 1/1 human that will allow it to attack. Keep in mind, we also have the Florahedron as a 1/1 that will allow it to attack. Moving on, we've got 4 copies of our Gnarled Professor, a 5/4 with trample, and whenever Gnarled Professor enters the battlefield, learn. Learn is a new mechanic incorporated within Strixhaven. Whenever we learn, we are allowed to pull a lesson card that we own from outside the game, aka our sideboard, bringing it into our hand. Perfect. So this card basically reads to me, whenever it enters play, pull exactly what you want from your sideboard to win the game. Of course, those cards do have to have Learn, and we'll talk about them in a second. 2 copies of Polluck Ranos Unchained, When it enters play, for the first time, it will enter with 6 +1/+1 counters on it, as it is a 0/0 creature. And when it escapes into play, it will enter with 12 of those counters on it, which is really quite interesting. And we do have a little bit of combo wombo within that later on that we'll wrap back to. And if damage will be dealt to Pulchranos while it has counters on it, prevent that damage, remove that many counters, so you can prevent death touch damage this way without losing your creature. Very cool. Just take in note, Bone Crusher Giant, damage can't be prevented. What's the Questing Beast? Damage can't be prevented, so you need to remember that. A little bit of removal here in the deck for 3 mana to fight, right? We can fight any other creature. That's great. We can replay it from our graveyard for 6 mana and exiling 6 cards from the grave. 3 copies of our Elder Gargaroth, a 6/6 with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. Whenever it attacks or blocks, choose one. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token. You gain 3 life, or you draw a card. It's going to deal everything that you want. We can attack, we can defend, and just pop off with that. We also have 3 copies of Burning-Rune Demon, a 6/6 for 6 mana with flying, and whenever it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for up to exactly 2 cards not named Burning-Rune Demon that have different names. If you do reveal those cards and the opponent chooses one of them, then put the chosen card into our hand, and the other goes into our graveyard, which is fine, right? So not much mind there. We have a single copy of Kogla, Titan Ape, 7/6. When it enters play, fight up to 1 target creature you don't control. Whenever it attacks, destroy enchantment or artifact that defending player controls. And we can pay 2 mana to return human to its owner's hand, giving it indestructible until the end of turn, which is pretty cool. We do have to control that human. We have a single copy of the Massacre Worm. When it enters play, target creatures our opponents control get -2/-2 until the end of turn. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they lose 2 life. So a little bit of token cleanup there if we want. A single copy of Vorinclex, a 6/6 with Trample and Haste. If you would put a counter on a permanent or a player, double those. If your opponent would put a counter on permanent or player, cut those in half, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The Great Henge ×3 for 9 mana. It does cost X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures we control. You know, we can cast this for as little as 2 mana, and we can tap it to add that 2 mana that we just spent to cast it back, also gaining 2 life, which is great. And most importantly, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. That's great. The +1/+1 counters will be doubled through Vorinclex. Vorinclex will also double the counters on the Unchained, which is really quite nice. Moving on, we've got the pathways. We've got the passages for the Kazandu Mammoth, reducing the cost of the Henge through the landfall. The Snarls, which is great, and the forests and swamps. So the land is super friendly. Getting into our sideboard now that we will access through Gnarled Professor. 2 copies of Environmental Science for 2 mana. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle and gain 2 life. Not that bad. A single copy of Fractal Summoning for 2 mana plus X to create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it. 2 copies of Basic Conjuration for 3 mana at sorcery speed. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, gaining 3 life while we do this as well. We have 3 copies of our Containment Breach for 3 mana as well. Sorcery speed, destroy artifact or enchantment. If its mana value was 2 or less, create a pest that when it dies, you gain 1 life. It's a 1/1. We've got a single copy of Ink Summoning for 3 mana to create a 2/1 Inkling with flying token. Great, sure. 2 copies of Induction to Prophecy. Introduction, LOL. Scry 2, then draw a card. Sure. 2 copies of Necrotic Fumes. Sorcery speed for 3 mana. As an additional cost to cast this spell, exile creature we control. We can get rid of a pest. To exile target creature or planeswalker. And then a single copy of Pest Summoning for 3 mana to create 2 1/1 black and green pests. And when they die, you'll gain 1 life each, which is neat. And again, all of these cards are accessible via Gnarled Professor, and we can get whatever we need for the circumstance. Now that you know what's in the deck, let's talk about kind of how we want things to work. We want to ramp as much as we can. You know, we're going to potentially want to be playing this Ecological Appreciation for 9 mana. which I know sounds like a lot, but we're going to get there together. We've got the Florahedron, right? This is ramping. We've got the Wolf Willow. This is ramping. You know, and then we're playing the Henge. This is ramping. So we should have 1, 2, 4 additional mana ahead of the game, right? If we can turn 2 Wolf Willow, turn 3 Florahedron, you know, turn 4 Great Henge, it should work out, right? Maybe we can't do that. It would still be turn 4 Henge. It would be turn 5 Florahedron, and it would be turn 6 Appreciation. And we would need either the Haven or the Florahedron to get there. But once we do get there, and you know, it shouldn't take us too long. And of course, we're filling up the battlefield with things like the Mammoth, that's a 3/3, like the Lovestruck Beast, that's a 5/5, that our opponent's not easily going to be able to get through. Of course, we also have the Professor and Unchained that do a similar job. Once we get into Gargaroth, we're gaining lots of life, right? So the typical ramp with the creatures is totally fine. We can still play the Great Henge as we typically would. But what turns the deck on is this Appreciation. If we can cast it for 9 mana, you know, we can pull a Burning-Rune Demon, which is absolutely amazing. We can pull a Vorinclex. We can pull, you know, really whatever we want for that specific occasion. Maybe we need to exile their graveyard. We could take a Blood Mage, right? Maybe we needed to learn. We could take a Gnarled Professor. Maybe they had a whole bunch of tokens. We could take a Massacre Worm. So the general idea is to pull Burning-Rune Demon and whatever else you need, right? Whether it be the Vorinclex or the Gargaroth, you know, the Worm, the Kogla. You'll need something, and the Burning-Rune will help you pull that next card for yourself. You know, I really like to pull the Vorinclex with Burning-Rune because Appreciation goes into the battlefield, Burning-Rune goes into your hand, Vorinclex has haste when it comes into the play next turn, right? So that's the ideal play line there. Of course, if you can get to your sideboard and you don't need anything to deal with anything, the Sciences grabs you land, Basic Conjuration grabs you creatures from your deck, Necrotic Fumes can deal with opponent's threats, everything else is just kind of filler. Get the Henge in play those creatures on top of the Henge, draw, you know, get more Gargaroths out. It's got Trample and Vigilance. It's a 6/6. If you've got Vorinclex, it's going to be an 8/8 with the Henge. So you should be easily able to beat your opponents down. And, you know, this Ecological Appreciation, I'm absolutely loving this. Sorcery speed, bit of a bummer. Again, Vorinclex has haste if you want to go out with a bang right away. But the deck looks like it's going to perform all right. We're lacking a little bit of removal, sure. But at the end of the day, if we can just go bigger, we can just go badder. We don't need it, right? We've got the fight effects for anything that is in our way. We've got the trample that should outpace everything. The fight effect as well can deal with a bully. The worm deals with a token army. And, you know, just more trample and stuff. So we shouldn't have too much of a problem. But, you know, it's one of those things where you might need the removal, but at the end of the day, just focus on your own game plan because it's best of 1. It's not a best of 3 deck. So just run your own play lines. Thank you guys for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck. Let me know what you think of it, if you can improve it in any way. Comments below. Support the channel if you can afford to do so, and don't miss out on all of our contests and giveaways as well that's going on within the link tree description. Google Hello Good Game Linktree. You'll find it. Have a magical day, and we'll see you soon in the next video.